Senator Leno, could we ask that you report to the Senate floor, please? Senator Leno to the Senate floor, please.
Sure.
Senator Leno, for what purpose do you rise, sir?
To present 4 bills passed out of the Budget and Fiscal Review Committee yesterday.
And the first file item number 3, is that your request?
AB 16X, file number 3.
AB 16 in the first extraordinary session. Members, this is file item number 3. Mr. Secretary, please read.
Assembly Bill 16 by Assembly Member Blumenfield, enacting to local government finance and making an appropriation therefore to take effect immediately, be related to the budget.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, we have 2 realignment-related bills. The first one has to do with local revenue funds. It makes some clarifying amendments necessary to implement the 2011 public safety realignment. First of all, it makes technical changes to ensure funding is adequately allocated to support the realignment already discussed. Secondly, it allows counties to contract directly back with the state to provide drug treatment and adoption programs in order to ensure statewide coverage. And then it also ensures that municipal police forces are kept at the 2010-11 funding level as a condition of accepting funds from realignment. I ask for your aye vote.
Debate or discussion? Debate or discussion? Senator Dutton, we are at file item 3. This is AB 16 in the first extraordinary session. Members, if you could give your attention to Senator Dutton, please.
Yeah, Mr. President and members, this would almost be funny if it wasn't a real serious issue. Back in March, we attempted to get together with the governor and provided various items that we felt had to be talked about. A lot of them are in this bill here that we felt needed to be resolved, that there was conflicts, there was problems in the budget that was being proposed. We also raised some objections when the budget was even being looked at, that there was going to be trouble with this realignment. But, it seems like the only time you wanted our participation is when it came time to raise taxes and fees. Never when it came to taking a look at how we're going to take care of the people's business with the realignment proposal. This was done strictly with the Democrat leadership and the governor, and now you're paying the price for it being done behind a closed door. Okay, we've got problems with this stuff. You're still going to have problems with it. And I just want to, for the record, to let you know that this was, when we were being ridiculed about giving this 53 item demand list, this was one of those items we felt had to be talked about. So I don't know what's going on here, but I got to tell you, this is a real big problem, and we're going to be 3 other bills we're going to be looking at have got some of the same kind of problems because the process to do this budget this last year was pretty much done in a vacuum.
Is there further debate or discussion? Further debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Senator Leno, you may close. Senator Leno, one moment, please.
Sure.
Members, if we could ask for quiet on the floor, please. If members could take their seats when possible. Members, please. Senator Leno, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I'm completely respectful of Senator Dutton's comments, but I also just want to recognize we have had a difference of opinion with regard to the realignment proposal from day one. That's already an established fact. This bill is an important bill to make sure that the funding's in place so that local law enforcement will have the resources that they're expected to have so that we can implement realignment to the very best that we can. Again, I ask for your aye vote.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Alquist? Aye. Anderson? No. Berryhill. Blakesley. No. Calderon. I. Canella. No. Corbett. I. Correa. De Leon. I. DeSaulnier. Dutton. No. Emerson. No. Evans. I. Fuller. No. Gaines. No. Hancock. I. Harmon. Hernandez. I. Huff. No. Kehoe. I. LaMalfa. No. Leno. I. Ted Lieu. Carol Lieu. I. Lowenthal. I. Negrete McLeod. I. Padilla. I. Pavley. I. Price. I. Rubio. I. Runner. No. Semidian. I. Steinberg. Strickland. No. Vargas. I. Walters. Wolk. I. Wright. Wyland. No. Yee. Yee, aye. Harmon, no.
Please call the absent members.
Berryhill. No. Correa. DeSaulnier. Aye. Ted Lieu. Aye. Steinberg. Walters. Wright.
Call the absent members.
Correa. No. Steinberg. Walters. Wright.
Ayes 22, noes 15. The bill is passed. Senator Leno, are you prepared to take up your next item? Yes. That'll be file item 1, members, in the first extraordinary session. It is AB 17. Mr. Secretary, please read.
Assembly Bill 17 by Assembly Member Blumenfield, enacting to criminal justice realignment and making appropriation therefore to take effect immediately. Bill related to the budget.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the public safety criminal justice aspect of the realignment. Technical and conforming revisions. It addresses sentencing concerns. It revises statutes related to offender time credit. Also makes some clarifying changes to parole and post-release community supervision. And also makes changes so that we can demonstrate to the public and to our criminal justice partners our intent to make public safety realignment work. I ask for your aye vote.
Is there debate or discussion? Senator Huff.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. ABX 117 is the fourth attempt to clean up a flawed bill. You recall that there was no Republican support in this before. We felt that it was being jammed us without thoughtful attention to what would happen. We've had numerous attempts. Indeed, this is the fourth time we've taken it up. The only way to really take care of AB 109 that we're trying to clean up is to repeal AB 109. And I would vote no against this and suggest the body get serious and just repeal AB 109 and quit messing around.
Further debate or discussion? Senator Leno, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, respectful of Senator Huff's comments, we recognize there was a difference of opinion on the realignment proposal from the very beginning. Keep in mind that our current criminal justice system is not only not working, it is broken. We have seen the percentage of general fund spending on the Department of Corrections grow from 5.3% to 11% today in just the past 8 years. As a result of the governor's proposal, we are going to reduce by $2 billion general fund spending on the Department of Corrections, and we will get better results subsequent to that savings. That is good public policy. Keep in mind, the realignment proposal had the support of public safety partners as we passed it. This bill will make it better yet. We weren't claiming it was perfect on day one. Recognizing that there are improvements to be made is to our credit. I ask for your aye vote.
Is there debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing further debate or discussion. Seeing none, Secretary, call the roll.
Alquist. Aye. Anderson. No. Berryhill. No. Blakesley. Calderon. Aye. Canella. No. Corbett. Aye. Correa. De Leon. Aye. DeSaulnier. I. Dutton. No. Emerson. No. Evans. I. Fuller. No. Gaines. No. Hancock. I. Harmon. No. Hernandez. I. Huff. No. Kehoe. I. LaMalfa. Leno. I. Tedlew. Carolou. I. Lowenthal. I. Negrete McLeod. I. Padilla. I. Pavley. I. Price. I. Rubio. I. Runner. No. Semidian.
Aye.
I. Steinberg. Strickland. No. Vargas. I. Walters. Wolk. I. Wright. Wyland. No. Yee. Yee, aye. LaMalfa, no.
Please call the absent members.
Blakesley. No. Correa. Tedlew. Aye. Steinberg. Walters. Wright.
Ayes 22, noes 14. The bill is passed. Senator Leno.
31X will be presented by Senator Calderon.
Members, we are looking at file item 4. This is AB 31X. Senator Calderon, one moment, please, while the Secretary reads.
Assembly Bill 31 by Assemblymember Charles M. Calderon, an act relating to redevelopment and making appropriation therefore to take effect immediately, be related to the budget.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, AB 31X amends the redevelopment budget package to provide an exemption for a redevelopment project that involves the sale of state surplus property. Specifically, the bill does the following. For a redevelopment project involving state surplus property and a sales agreement executed prior to June 30, 2011, this bill would exempt the project from making a remittance to the local schools equal to 80% of the property tax increment the schools would otherwise receive absent RDA debt. The only project known to meet this criteria is the sale of the Fred C. Nellis Youth Correctional Facility in Whittier, California. The sale would close escrow in 2 or 3 years, and the sales price is $42 million. The funds will go toward early repayment of the state economic recovery bonds. With this, I ask for your aye vote.
Debate or discussion? Senator Dutton.
Yeah, Mr. President and members, what I find interesting about this whole RDA thing, and I'm sure we're going to see more bills, Governor Brown ordered the hit on the RDAs, but the Democrats did the drive-by, okay, and that's exactly what's happened here. Now what we're going to see is we're going to see a lot of different things come up because you're going to find out that you can't just yank the rug out from under the RDA program and the projects, and then there's going to be a price to pay for that. There's a city that's going to end up losing its line of credit because of what we did. There's going to be other projects that have been put on hold. All this talk about job creation, let me tell you something. You've really done a good job for job creation with regards to these cities because you basically put a stop to it. This is unfortunate because this type of fix, though, should almost be statewide to take care of some of the problems that the RDA takeaway have caused.
Is there further debate or discussion? Senator Emerson.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. I rise in opposition to this legislation. This is a special carve-out after this body spent a lot of discussion on redevelopment, and we took that away. We took away the low housing issues that many cities rely on, including the county and city of Los Angeles. Next thing you know, we'll be carving out a exemption for the residents of Lake Titicaca.
Senator Leno.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to share with colleagues that this bill passed out of the Budget and Fiscal Review Committee last night with significant bipartisan support. Members recognizing that of all the different redevelopment projects, and we've all got them in our districts that are near and dear to us, what makes this one not only different but in fact unique is that it is state surplus property that was already sold prior to our vote in June eliminating redevelopment agencies. That's the reason for the bill. I ask for your aye vote.
Senator Cannella.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I would disagree with my colleague that just spoke and say this is not unique. In fact, in my city, where I was the mayor of Ceres, we just built a new interchange. It left a large blighted area that the redevelopment agency had been working on for years, the entire time I was the mayor of Ceres. And we were close to purchasing that property where we're going to build affordable housing, actually. Unfortunately, this body and the Assembly and ultimately signed by the governor killed redevelopment. So this is not unique. So instead of fixing one project at a time, we should be fixing the problems that we created with the end of redevelopment. I'd like to support this bill, but I can't because it's unfair to target one area at a time. We should fix them all at once and really fix the problems we created by ending redevelopment.
Senator Wolk.
Thank you, Mr. President. I urge a no vote on this bill. There were some suggestions about technical fixes to what we did on redevelopment that is included in a bill that I hope will make it to the floor, which will give increased flexibility to many, in fact, statewide, to many of the redevelopment agencies, many of which they asked for. This is a special carve-out for one agency. I think that that's really inappropriate, considering that there are hundreds of redevelopment agencies, and perhaps there are many that have surplus property issues, such as this bill, or Polanco issues, or other issues which have to do with toxic cleanup. There are a number of issues that need to be resolved, and it's really unfair and inappropriate that only one should be coming to the floor of this House at the very last minute without having, frankly, gone to the committee that has redevelopment in its jurisdiction, and that's Governance and Finance. We have 2 more days. I think we ought to stop the gut and amends, and we ought to stop this violation of process. This is a bad bill, and I urge a no vote.
Senator Huff.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. You all may remember I was trying valiantly to save redevelopment from the executioner's axe. This bill creates a carve-out for one of the situations that I had previously described. But when we rush to kill redevelopment without considering all the consequences or just saying we're going to sort it out later on, we find ourselves as a legislative body all tangled up in our whitey-tighties. And that's what happens when we do things fast. We don't do them contemplative. So the real problem we have now is it could create litigation for this poor city of Whittier. It's been a long process to get this state property surplused, to get it taken care of. At one time, it was potential for a reentry facility for at the local level, which certainly didn't make sense for the community where houses had built up around it. So this is one of those unique situations, but ironically, redevelopment deals with unique situations. That's why it was such a valuable tool. I'm frustrated that we haven't seen this in policy committee. I'm frustrated this is one carve-out when there are so many other things that need to be fixed. I'm frustrated we killed redevelopment in the first place. And by the way, there is a lawsuit that is before the Supreme Court now. It may solve this and make this and everything else moot and take the playing field back to where it started before we as a legislature intervened in this process. There's many reasons to either support or oppose this. I'm supporting it because I've been involved in it for a long time. I think it's very important to the community. I'm just very frustrated we're not doing a comprehensive fix that takes care of the other issues.
Is there further debate or discussion on this item? Senator Correa. Of course.
Thank you. I also rise in opposition to this measure, and primarily because this is an example of the fixes we need to have across the state. Now, whether you support redevelopment or not is not the issue. The issue is that the recent laws passed dealing with redevelopment, then the litigation before the courts right now have created a situation of uncertainty, and in my district have cities that stand to lose millions of dollars right now if this uncertainty that's been created is not solved. Yet this legislation does not solve that problem for others throughout the state, but it just addresses the issue for one district one entity, and I believe that is unfair to the rest of the state of California, so I'm asking everybody to vote no on this measure.
Senator Vargas.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I appreciate the opportunity. Let's not do revisionist history. The reality is that the budget was very short. Many of us like redevelopment. I'm from San Diego. I think redevelopment has done a fantastic job in San Diego. Unfortunately, we weren't able to extend the taxes that had already been given to the people by the previous administration. So all of a sudden we had to get some money, and this was where we looked because there was some money. Some notion that we don't like redevelopment is untrue. I think it's a fantastic tool that we've used in the state quite well. I remember this project. It was a project that came up and I thought was very unique and should be supported. So it is before us properly. This is the process. I mean, some notion that this is not the process. No, our process allows for this. It's exactly what we're supposed to be able to do. If an issue pops up and should be remedied at the end, the process allows for this. Our rules allow for this. Some notion that it's not here appropriately is not true. The reality is these are our rules. They do allow for amendments. They do allow for the opportunity to correct things, especially if you have a special situation like this. So I stand in strong support. I also would say that, yeah, there are going to be other fixes. That's true, and we should take a look at them. I'm not against those. I think they should come forward. This is a very unique one. I think it deserves our support. Thank you, Mr. President.
Further debate or discussion? Senator Strickland.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I do want to follow up on my colleague's comments from San Diego about revisionist history. It is revisionist history to not look at where we were in terms of redevelopment. My good friend from Whittier, on our side of the aisle, talked about his plan when it came to redevelopment that would have got us $2 billion in reformed redevelopment instead of throwing it out. And so we also had a chance in the budget process to do a sale leaseback that would actually improve, and we would have got an extra $1.2 billion. So we're talking about, a $2 billion plan that would have reformed redevelopment. Instead, what we did is we threw it out. Now it's in courts. And now what's going to happen in this legislature is you're going to come back for each one of your districts and you're going to ask for a special exemption when you shouldn't have thrown out the redevelopment in the first place. I will support this bill because I do know this area and I knew this region. I went to Whittier College. I played basketball there. I used to work on the treadmill. I used to do the Phi Master and everything else. And so I do know this area. And this area is very important, and it's something that we need to support. But I am worried that every member now is going to come forward and ask for a special exemption. I will support this one because I know the region. But in the future, we should look at what we did and not have revisionist history on this floor.
Senator Lowenthal.
Thank you. I stand in opposition, not because I think that we don't need to fix parts of redevelopment, which I do, but we have a bill, as Senator Walk said, that generally gives greater flexibility to all redevelopment agencies. It extends the life of the time that they have to pay things back. It actually helps them. It is not, until we deal with the overall comprehensive protecting and allowing redevelopment to go forward, I think it's foolish for us to begin to pick out individual projects. So for that reason, I cannot support this bill.
Is there further debate or discussion? Further debate or discussion? Senator Huff.
There we go. Thank you, Mr. President. I just need to clarify, even though we're on the same side of the vote, but my colleague from San Diego commented that we were scrambling around looking for money because there was no tax extensions. Memory serves me correct. In the January budget, there were tax extensions that were put out there in addition to the $1.7 billion that would be taken by killing redevelopment. So it was always in addition to the tax extensions. And those of us trying to preserve redevelopment found a way by working with the cities and the redevelopment agencies to create that win-win situation that would have scored $2 billion of real money, not 1.7 of phantom money, And that would have been something that we could all have embraced and scored the money, but that was turned down. So instead, we are back here trying to cobble things together, and it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. I might also, in our revisionist, taking a look back, you recall we had more revenues at the May revision than what we anticipated in January. And with the budget we passed, we actually had more money for K-14 education without taxes than what was predicated in January with taxes. And so the money was there. It's all how you want to score it.
Is there further debate or discussion? Further debate or discussion? If not, Senator Calderon, you may close.
Thank you. Members, this is a budget trailer bill. This isn't a carve out. This is part of the budget. And let's look at this closely and what we're actually trying to do here. This bill helps protect an anticipated new state revenue of $42.5 million from the sale of a state surplus property. And for example, if AB 27X is invalidated and AB 26X is upheld, AB 31X creates a prior obligation, thereby protecting the state revenue projection of $42.5 million and potentially even more millions due to profit-sharing agreements that were negotiated as part of the overall sales agreement. Members, over 1,500 new jobs will be created with the sale of the Nellis State surplus property. Approximately $300 million of economic output will be created as a result of the sale and development of state surplus property. Approximately $16 million in new revenues will also be provided to local schools. With the $42.5 million sale of state surplus land, the Nellis State property will be returned to the tax roll for the first time in over 100 years, thereby providing continuous economic development benefits to the state of California and local communities. I ask for your aye vote.
Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Alquist, aye. Anderson, Berryhill, no. Blakesley, no. Calderon, aye. Cannella, no. Corbett, Correa, no. De Leon, DeSaulnier, Dutton, no. Emerson, no. Evans, Fuller, no. Gaines, Hancock, Harmon, no. Hernandez, Huff, aye. Kehoe, Lamalfa, aye. Leno, aye. Tedlew, aye. Carolou, no. Lowenthal, no. Negrete McLeod, aye. Padilla, aye. Pavley, Price, aye. Rubio, Runner, no. Simidian, aye. Steinberg, Strickland, aye. Vargas, aye. Walters, Wolk, no. Wright, Wyland, no. Yee, no.
Mr. Secretary, please call the absent members.
Anderson, aye. Corbett, aye. De Leon, aye. DeSaulnier, aye. Evans, aye. Gaines, Hancock, aye. Hernandez, aye. Kehoe, no. Pavley, Rubio, Steinberg, Walters, Wright.
Mr. Secretary, please call the absent members.
Gaines, Pavley, Rubio, Steinberg, Walters, Wright.
Mr. Secretary, please call the absent members.
Gaines, Pavley, Rubio, Steinberg, Walters, Wright. Steinberg, aye.
Mr. Secretary, please call the absent members.
Gaines, Pavley, Rubio, Walters? Right. Right.
Mr. Secretary, please call the absent members.
Gaines? Pavley? Rubio? Walters? Right.
Mr. Secretary, please call the absent members.
Gaines? Pavley? Rubio? Walters? Right.
Ayes 20, noes 15. Senator Calderon moves the call. Senator Leno, I believe there's one other item to be taken up in the first extraordinary session.
AB 32X.
This is file item 2, members, in the first extraordinary session. It is AB 32X. Mr. Secretary, please read.
Assembly Bill 32 by Assemblymember Blumenfield enacting to Education Finance and making an appropriation therefore to take effect immediately. Bill related to the budget.
Thank you, colleagues. This is the fourth and last of the budget bills which passed out of committee yesterday. This is the education follow-up trailer bill, which makes statutory changes to implement the education bill that we passed back in June. And it does the following. It updates Prop 98 savings already scheduled in the Budget Act in order to reflect available savings in 11 and 12. It also adds statute to continue necessary small schools funding grants for eligible middle and junior high schools. And it also, in the event of the budget trigger being pulled, allows the community college fee increase of $10, which would take us to $46 per unit, to be effective May 1st of 2012 for the summer term of the 2012 calendar. This change was made at the request of the community colleges. I ask for your aye vote.
Debate or discussion? Senator Huff.
Thank you, Mr. President. Once again, this falls under the same type of discussion as the others, so I won't repeat myself a whole lot. But when you go back and clean up something, as I've said before, it's a lot like putting lipstick on a pig. Republicans didn't support a lot of the things that were enacted before. This is cleaning up something that was arguably unconstitutional in the beginning. It effectively suspended the guarantee to Prop 98 by $2.1 billion without the two-thirds vote of the legislature that the Constitution requires. It also rolled back the previous action, $200 million of child care savings we had scored through our actions in March. That was going backwards. The larger budget package needs to address a systemic problem that we have. If this doesn't do it, we keep nipping around the edges. We do something, we figure out where it's bad, we nip some more. At the end, we need to have a bipartisan, comprehensive approach to our budget process. And in this Prop 25 world where we have majority vote budget, we would be doing less of this if we did more of the bipartisan cooperation in the beginning. And we're willing to do it, but this isn't the way to do it. I urge a no vote.
Debate or discussion? Debate or discussion? Senator Dutton on this item.
Yeah, Mr. President, members, I have a general comment to make about this bill, but actually with all the bills we're currently looking at. We're willing to help roll up our sleeves and make the tough choices, tough decisions to fix California. But the problem, the reason why you're finding so much resistance on the part of the Republicans with regards to a lot of these measures, because frankly, we haven't been asked to come to the table unless we want to increase taxes. We're in tough times right now. There are various things. It's a big state. There's a lot of diversity. Different things apply to different areas, but all areas need to be respected. And so, we want to help, but all these items here that have been discussed today in these four bills were all things that, frankly, we didn't provide, when given a chance to provide any input on any of it until last night. And so I would suggest that if you want us to be part of the solution that you certainly can control because you have the majority, then invite us to the party a little earlier, and we'll be more than happy to sit down and try to help.
Any additional comments, members? Further debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Senator Leno, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. President. Respectful of Senator Huff and Senator Dutton's comments, I ask for your aye vote.
Call the roll.
Alquist. Aye. Anderson. Berryhill. No. Blakesley? Calderon? Canilla? No. Corbett? I. Correa? De Leon? I. DeSaulnier? Dutton? No. Emerson? No. Evans? I. Fuller? Gaines? Hancock? I. Harmon? No. Hernandez? I. Huff? No. Kehoe? I. Lamalfa? No. Leno? I. Ted Lieu? Carol Lieu? I. Lowenthal? I. Negrete McLeod? I. Padilla? I. Pavley? I. Price? I. Rubio? Runner? No. Semidian?
Aye.
I. Steinberg? Strickland? No. Vargas? I. Walters? Wolk? I. Wright? Wyland? No. Yee? Yee, aye. Anderson, no.
Please call the absent members.
Blakesley? No. Calderon? Aye. Correa? DeSaulnier? Aye. Fuller? Gaines? No. Ted Lieu? Aye. Rubio? Steinberg? Walters? Wright?
Please call the absent members.
Correa? Fuller? Rubio? Steinberg? Walters? Wright?
We are at ayes 21, noes 13. The bill is passed. Senator Calderon, for what purpose do you rise, sir? All right. One moment, please, members. Members, is there any further business in the first extraordinary session? If not, then the first extraordinary session will stand in brief recess and the regular session will be reconvened. At this time, I will ask Senator Curran Price to come to the dais and preside while I take up just one item on Assembly third reading, so that when we return later in the day, that business will be done and I will be able to preside without interruption. Senator Price, this is our file item 37, AB 712.
Secretary, please read.
Assembly Bill 712 by Assembly Member Williams, enacting to recycling.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. This measure deals with the convenient recycling centers we see around the state at our local grocery stores, supermarkets. We all know they've got an obligation to take back the various recyclables. The difficulty is that some local jurisdictions are passing local legislation that makes that difficult, if not impossible, precluding the operation of these staffed sites. This bill does not in any way interfere with local land use authority, but it does say, in what I think is a common sense way, if you're a local jurisdiction that is precluding a viable recycling effort in your community, then that local community should not be eligible for various grants and funding available from the state. Can't have it both ways. You want to be part of the system, participate in the grant process, that's great, but if you want those grants and funding, you cannot preclude that very funding from being used in this most sensible of ways. I would respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Members, any debate or discussion? Any debate or discussion? Secretary, please call the roll.
Alquist? Aye. Anderson? Berryhill? No. Blakesley? Aye. Calderon? Aye. Canilla? Aye. Corbett? Aye. Correa? De Leon? DeSaulnier? Aye. Dutton? Emerson? Dutton, aye. Emerson. Evans. I. Fuller. I. Gaines. Hancock. Harmon. I. Hernandez. I. Huff. Kehoe. I. LaMalfa. I. Leno. I. Ted Lieu. I. Carol Lieu. I. Lowenthal. I. Negrete McLeod. I. Padilla. I. Pavley. I. Price.
Aye.
I. Rubio. Runner. I. Semidian.
Aye.
I. Steinberg. Strickland. I. Vargas. I. Walters. Wolk. I. Wright. Wyland. Yee. Yee, aye. Huff, aye. Correa, aye. Emerson, aye. Berryhill, no to aye. De Leon, aye. Hancock, aye. Gaines, aye.
Call the absent members.
Anderson, aye. Rubio. Steinberg. Walters. Wright. Wyland. Wyland, aye.
Ayes 36, no 0. The measure passes. Mr. Smidian.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do have one other bill on Assembly file. This is AB 983 by Assemblymember Perea. It is file item 139.
File item 139. Secretary, please read.
Assembly Bill 983 by Assemblymember Perea, enacting to public health and making an appropriation therefore.
Thank you, Mr. President, members. Members, this measure simply acknowledges that for severely disadvantaged communities, it's particularly challenging to cobble together the funds to make sure that they have safe and sustainable drinking water projects. The measure accounts for that by allowing severely disadvantaged communities to be eligible for grants of up to 100% of the project cost. It's not a guarantee, but there is eligibility. Also gives priority to projects that consolidate with other small water systems to maximize the use of these dollars. I would respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Members, any debate or discussion? Any debate or discussion? Secretary, please call the roll.
Alquist. Aye. Anderson. Aye. Berryhill. Blakesley. Calderon. Aye. Canella. Aye. Corbett. Aye. Correa. Aye. De Leon. DeSaulnier. Aye. Dutton. Emerson. Aye. Evans. Aye. Fuller. Aye. Gaines. Aye. Hancock. Aye. Harmon. Aye. Hernandez. Aye. Huff. Kehoe. Aye. LaMalfa. Aye. Leno. Aye. Ted Lieu. Aye. Carol Lieu. Aye. Lowenthal. Aye. Negrete McLeod. Aye. Padilla. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Price. Aye. Rubio. Runner. Aye. Semidian. Aye. Steinberg. Strickland. Aye. Vargas. Aye. Walters. Wolk. Aye. Wright. Wyland. Aye. Yee. Yee, aye. Huff, aye. De Leon, aye.
Please call the absent members.
Berryhill. Blakesley. Berryhill, aye. Blakesley, aye. Dutton. Aye. Rubio. Steinberg. Walters. Wright.
Ayes 36, no 0. The bill is passed. Members, at this time, the regular session will stand in recess, and the first extraordinary session will be reconvened. Members, we are back in the first extraordinary session. Mr. Secretary, I believe we do have at least one measure on call. Could we ask that you lift the call and call the absent members?
Gaines. Pavley. Rubio. Walters. Wright. Wyland, no to aye.
Ayes 21, noes 14. The bill is passed. Members, one moment, please. I do not believe we have any other business in the extraordinary session. That being the case, at this time, the first extraordinary session will stand in recess and the regular session will be reconvened. Once more, members, we are back in the regular session. Senator Wolk, for what purpose do you rise?
We will have a meeting of the Governance and Finance Committee upon adjournment of the Budget Committee in room 112.
Room 112, thank you very much. Members, we have other meetings that are scheduled at this hour. Do we have other announcements from committee chairs? Senator Evans.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Committee on the Judiciary will be meeting in room 3191 immediately after the conclusion of the Rules Committee meeting.
In 3191 upon conclusion of the Senate rules. Is that correct? Thank you. Senator Leno, for what purpose, sir?
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Budget and Fiscal Review will be meeting in room 4203 presently.
Committee on Budget meeting in room 4203 immediately upon our recess. Are there any other committee announcements? Members, I am advised that the Rules Committee will be meeting immediately upon our recess in room 3191. Senator Padilla, for what purpose do you rise, Senator?
And in that series of committee hearings, Senate Energy will also be convening. I'll await clarification on exactly after and before which other policy committees, but in that sequence of meetings, members of the Senate Energy Committee will be meeting in 3191 as well.
Thank you. Members, if I could have your attention for one last announcement, please. The Senate Environmental Quality Committee will be meeting in room 3191 to hear two bills. They are AB 525 by Assemblymember Gordon and AB 1019 by Mr. Speaker. We will convene immediately upon the adjournment of the Senate Judiciary Committee, which will be adjourning immediately upon the completion of the Senate Rules Committee in 3191. My anticipation is that we'll be talking sometime around 1:15 or 1:30. Again, that's Senate Environmental Quality following rules, which is following Judiciary, which is following rules in room 3191. If there are any other announcements, this is the time.
Back at 2 o'clock.
If not, we will recess until 2 p.m. Members, let's plan to be back by 2 p.m. We stand in recess.